Hello, everyone. Welcome to Seeking Answers with Chris Rodriguez. The channel where we get together and basically seek answers about religion, about Christianity. We are Christians. Some are Catholics. Some are Protestants, Baptists, whatever it may be. Um, we've done a lot of content towards Catholicism. Grew up a Catholic, and I think the answers lie within the Catholic side of things, but we respect everybody. So we welcome everybody to come on the show and give their opinion, comment in the comment section below, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and let's not waste any time. I'm going to react to the first video here that's called What Did the Protestant Reformation, Why Did the Protestant Reformation Happen? By Knowledge, yeah. Big YouTube channel, over 2 million subscribers. So this is a good video narrated by Royal Carter. And this video hopefully will give us some insight on what happened and how Protestantism became or came about. A lot of people don't agree with it. A lot of people do agree with it. Especially in the United States of America, it's very popular. So let's take a look and see what they say. And of course, let us know in the comment section what you think. Very important to get your opinion on if you agree, disagree, whatever it may be. Let us know in the chat. Let's not waste any more time, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get right to it.
The Protestant Reformation is widely known for Martin Luther's publication of his 95 Theses, or Disputation of the Power and Efficacy of Indulgences, and marks a second schism of sorts for the Catholic Church. In reality, the Reformation of Western Christianity was long in the making, and Martin Luther was not its only leader. While many view the start of the Protestant Reformation as having been in 1517 following the publication of Martin Luther's Theses, the actual date of its beginning is somewhat unclear. There were essentially three main Reformation movements, one in Germany, one in England, and one in Switzerland, with all of them occurring around the same time in the 16th century. The German Reformation, led by Martin Luther, is generally the movement that most people think of when the topic is discussed. Martin Luther, prior to the Reformation, was actually a professor of theology and a priest. During his time as such, Luther was sent to represent the observant German Augustinian monasteries in Rome between the fall of 1510 and spring of 1511, where he came to notice a lack of spirituality throughout Rome that left a lasting negative impression on him. This pessimistic view of the church only worsened after Luther discovered a Dominican friar, Johann Tetzel, who preached that sins could be forgiven by the purchase of a letter of indulgence approved by the Pope, allowing for one's soul to skip time in purgatory before entering heaven. The money from these indulgences was being put toward the rebuilding of St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, which Luther bravely claimed should be paid for by the wealthy Pope himself. In response to this indulgence controversy, Luther wrote his 95 Theses, which was supposed to inspire a debate about the issuance of indulgences, with the assumption that his concerns would be heard and understood. Copies of the propositions were sent out to a few friends, and to Archbishop Albert of Mainz, who was Tetzel's superior, accompanied by a request for the friar's preachings to be stopped. Luther's grievances were not met with the reaction he anticipated, and his disapproval of the church began to expand into growing theological disagreements. By 1518, Luther had come to believe that the view of the church, which stated that salvation came from both the grace of God, in addition to good works and human actions to earn reconciliation, was utterly false, and that humans were unable to earn salvation. It was simply an act of God's forgiving grace. Furthermore, Luther came to the conclusion that the Bible itself should be viewed as the only reliable source of information and authority, as opposed to the teachings of the Church and the Pope having that role.
Interesting. So let's pause there for a second, as we got a little bit on the video. So I'm gathering some information just based on this informational video. And nothing else. I haven't done research really on Martin Luther and how it started Protestantism. But it seemed like at the time where he was alive, there was a lot of bad things going on, a lot of fishy, sketchy things going on within the Roman Catholic Church, and he felt that this is not right. Something is going on, so I'm going to, you know, seek answers. No pun intended with the name of the channel, but seek answers and find a way. He kind of came to his own conclusions that the Bible was the only thing that he and anybody needed in order to be in heaven or find salvation, opposite to the Catholic belief, which is putting in the work. And putting in the works doesn't mean give money, by the way. It could be just like in Baptist churches and Pentecostal church, or any other church receive donations. But it seems like at that time was a difficult time to be a Catholic, I guess you can say. And the thing about it is, every time we are run by humans, which is anything in life now, obviously, you have the capacity. Humans got the capacity of sin. They sin every time, all the time. And unfortunately, this can happen within any church, any religion. And certainly Christianity is not, you know, it's not going to be without sin. So interesting. But did Martin have enough to make the radical move to just move away from the church and start his own thing? Let's continue.
Since the printing press had recently been discovered, this gave Luther a vast advantage, as new translations of the Bible could now be printed and provided to anyone with the ability to read, so that they could learn from the Bible themselves instead of relying on priests and other clergy members. In Switzerland, a Reformation paralleling Luther's began around 1522 under the guidance of Huldrych Zwingli, William Farel, and later John Calvin. Zwingli, a priest, taught similar ideas to what Martin Luther was preaching in Germany, but on an even more radical level. Beginning in Zurich, Zwingli's movement quickly took a stronghold in the city, and by 1526, Farel, a fellow reformer, began to assist him in spreading the message to the French-speaking parts of Switzerland, giving sermons in different cities, including Geneva. In 1536, Farel met John Calvin, who authored the Institutes of the Christian Religion Doctrine, and would help Farel to organize the Reformed Church of Geneva. Additionally, Martin Luther was not the only reformer to translate the Bible into vernacular for the masses to read themselves, as the Swiss did the same. The Reformation also spread rapidly in Switzerland, and Calvin's work reached as far as Scotland to the west and Transylvania to the east. As both Calvinism and Lutheranism gained traction throughout Europe, England fell into its own Reformation. In the far west, King Henry VIII prompted the Third Simultaneous Reformation for both religious and political reasons. Mainly, the monarch was outraged by Pope Clement VII's denial of an annulment for Henry's marriage to Catherine of Aragon. In 1534, the English king declared that he should from then on be the only final authority on all matters within the English Church, thereby establishing the Anglican Church and the start of a new Reformation movement.
Wow, that's crazy, isn't it? When one person decides that he has enough reason to move away from the Catholic Church, which was clearly established by that time and really for 2,000 years. So at the time, 1,500 years ago, from this time that they're narrating, then it seemed like the King of England decided that he's going to be his own Pope of the English Church, and he's going to do his own thing. And there's another guy here that's doing his own thing as well. The Calvinists, the Anglicans, the Lutherans, and everybody starts doing their own thing. That's what I'm getting at. I think one of the great things that happened, though, that they did was that everybody could have printed copies of the Bible. I think that that's a big deal. I mean, kind of odd. Well, at the time, it seems like that's when it was just being invented. And so, do we know that the Catholics were going to do that anyway? I would like to think so. But regardless, it was Martin Luther that did that with his posse, and they're able to do that. So I think that was one of the great things ever. But I still have skepticism when it comes to everybody doing their own thing. Now, yeah, I want to part away from the Roman Catholic Church, so I'm going to be an Anglican, I'm going to be a Calvinist, I'm going to be a Lutheran, and therefore now we got 40,000 plus denominations. So that's kind of the odd thing about it.
King Henry also insisted that the Bible be made available for the people, demanding that every parish obtain a copy, and additionally requiring that liturgy be prepared in English. Paralleling Henry's changes, Scotland also joined the reforms thanks to the inspiration John Knox received from John Calvin back in Switzerland. Knox now formed the Presbyterian branch of Protestantism. Eventually, though shamefully late, the Catholic Church formulated a systematic response to the growing Protestant Reformation, in the form of what is simply called the Counter-Reformation. Although some steps were taken to address the reformers earlier on, such as the excommunication of Martin Luther back in 1521, the Catholic Church as a whole failed to do much at the start. The first major move taken by the Church was under Pope Paul III, who called for the Council of Trent in 1545. The three-part series of councils held between 1545 through 1563 not only addressed the challenging of Catholic doctrine by the Protestants, but also established decrees of self-reform. In the first council, the bishops in attendance were divided as to whether full-out reform was needed or simply a clarification of Catholic doctrine. Many issues were discussed, such as the Creed of Nicaea and Constantinople, which was confirmed as the foundation of the Catholic faith. The number of sacraments, which should be 7, tradition, which was accepted as a source of faith, as well as other subjects that had been challenged by Martin Luther in particular, which subsequently led to the decision to formally deny the reformers' idea that humans had no ability to earn salvation through behavior such as good works. Political discord put the progress of the council on hold until the next period of talks began in 1551. As the second part started, a growing number of Protestants, mainly from Germany, began to insist upon a re-evaluation of what had been decided upon by the council back in 1545. But nothing of the sort was done, and the council continued on. This time, one of the main subjects addressed was the sacrament of Eucharist, which the Catholic Church confirmed to include that the bread and wine were believed to truly transform into the body and blood of Christ, although not in appearance. This assertion was of course in direct contradiction to the Reformists, which came as no surprise. Further doctrine was solidified before the council was interrupted by political disputes yet again. When Pope Paul IV took over, the whole concept of the council came under serious doubt due to his direct opposition to the notion. Finally, in 1562, Pope Pius IV decided to reinstate the council, and the bishops regathered. During the last leg of the meetings, updated statements and decrees were made concerning Mass, holy orders, purgatory, matrimony, indulgences, saints, and again, more details concerning Eucharist. Reforms were also made for the morals of clerics, and much of the corruption and abuses that had inspired the Protestant Reformation, such as the clerical overspending and favoritism within appointments made to the church office, were soon resolved, allowing the Catholic Church to regain a large amount of its support throughout Europe. Still, it was too late to reverse the break within the Western Church, and Protestantism was on an upward path of growth at a fast pace. To combine the spreading Protestant theology, the Roman Inquisition put a heavy focus on the prosecution of anyone deemed a heretic, such as the Protestants themselves. While the Roman Inquisition was drastically milder than the previously established Spanish Inquisition, it was famously known for putting Galileo on trial in 1633. Furthermore, the effects of the Protestant Reformation's popularity triggered wars of religion all throughout Europe, with one of the first being fought in France between the Catholics and Protestants, ending in the regaining of France for the Catholic Church, though also providing a level of tolerance for the Protestants in the area. The 30 Years' War broke out in 1618 as well, mainly in modern-day Germany, and is said to have potentially wiped out 40 to 60% of their population.
That's unbelievable that he got to this point. I had no idea that's how bad. And by the way, I did Google that Martin Luther died relatively young. I think 40s or 50s maybe. So I don't. Was he alive during this time? It's important to see. But the fact that he got to this point where they were killing each other, fighting, man, you can. It's definitely you can tell this was the devil working. Satan was working, and he was triumph. He was succeeding at this, because that's what the devil wants. Imagine God would never want his children to fight like this, to kill each other over the gospel and who was right or wrong. Um, so very, very insightful. Let's finish up and give some conclusions at the end.
Wars with Catholic versus Protestants undertones would include the Scottish Jacobite Rising, the Schmalkaldic War, the Dutch Revolt, and many more. Even wars that were not solely based on religious conflict were fueled by the disconnect between Catholics and Protestants. Today, though, the relationship between the Western churches is remarkably better than it once was. There is still a sharply clear schism between the beliefs of Protestants and Catholics, and some disputes and even violence have only recently died down, or still remain today in small pockets of the world. The history and existence of the Protestant Reformation not only stands as a vastly significant event due to its contribution to the creation of today's Protestant Christian denominations, but it also shows the true uniqueness of the Catholic denomination, which had clearly survived the Great Schism only a few centuries prior. Now, around the world, we have thousands of smaller Christian branches or denominations, divided mostly into the Catholic, Orthodox, Protestant, Anglican, Assyrian, and Restoration denominations. Undoubtedly, the Protestant Reformation more than helped to shape modern Christianity.
Yeah, definitely so. Definitely so. Thank you to Knowledgea for this kind video. My goodness. Well, I wasn't expecting that. Certainly not the violence. My goodness. I mean, that it should never be the answer. That should never be the answer. I would imagine. I wonder though if there would be an opportunity for these today, these two parties to get together and speak to each other in a manner of have these councils. Well, let's get to a mutual agreement, or have we reached a point 2025 years later where, or well, actually less because this happened around the 1500s, 1,000 years later. Have we reached to a point where it is what it is, and there's nothing to be talked about? People are who they are, and they believe in what they believe. And I think that's what we've gotten. Although there's people that convert back and forth, to different denominations, and so interesting. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Why did the Protestant Reformation happen? Interesting video here from Analogia. So thank you so much for your support. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let us know what you think in the comment section down below. See you later, folks.